So today we're going to go over a game of RMD versus a very popular comp, which is DHDK Evoker. You see DHDK with Shamans, with Evokers, with Druids, pretty much any healer. It's a very strong comp, and this game, I believe, did go down to pretty deep dampening, so there will be times where I'm going to fast forward, but we're just going to go over a few things here. One of the key concepts that I want to keep in mind is just keeping yourself as a Druid in a safe position. This comp is one that likes to swap to you a lot. The DK can death grip you in. The Demon Hunter has plenty of mobility to get to you pretty much whenever he wants, and you are very susceptible to dying to this. So let's just jump in and see what happens here. So they're doing damage to our Rogue right now. We throw out the Adaptive Swarm on him, get a couple hots rolling. He throws out the Kidney on the enemy Death Knight right away. The DH kind of wastes his Fel Eruption there on my Mage. He just blinks it, and then he incaps him. Maybe just trying to slow the game down, not really sure. We dispelled the incap, so we didn't have to spell for our Rogue stun there. But he's fine. He tries out the evasion. This is Gargoyle from the enemy DK, as well as I believe his A-bomb and his like large pet cooldown. So this is also Unholy Frenzy. So this is a lot of the Death Knight's cooldowns. We go ahead and trade out the tree form here. I did that about 5 seconds ago. I'll go ahead and rewind. But as soon as we see the Gargoyle come out, we go ahead and trade out that tree form and the Iron Bark on our Mage, just kind of trying to stabilize. These are a lot of the really big cooldowns that we have from them. Or that the enemy team has. They stun me and they're swapping to me. Again, this is kind of just how it always goes. They go your DPS for a little bit, then they swap over to you. So here something important happens. I traded tree form for the Death Knight CDs. My tree form ends in 17 seconds. The enemy Demon Hunter just used his big meta, as they call it, this like 30-second, kind of like an incarn for Demon Hunters, 24 seconds. So he's going to be building pressure towards the end of my tree form. He'll have another I-beam come up, so my Rogue trades out blind here. So this is one thing that you can do with your team, and that I get questions about this a lot. Is like, how do you have enough cooldowns? It feels like I die to things even though I've used everything that I have. Sometimes you have to work together with your team and the cooldowns that your teammates have in order to kind of survive. I mean, it's 3 versus 3. It's not 1 versus 3. So sometimes just your own cooldowns are not going to be enough. So here my Rogue trades out blind on the enemy Demon Hunter's big meta. Kind of using an offensive cooldown defensively in order to kind of slow the pace of the game down and help us recover, which it successfully does. The Demon Hunter does not want to trinket out of this blind because he does not want to become a kill target later. So he sits the blind, stuns me, but that was 8 seconds off of his big meta. We're all 100% HP. I've got blooms out on both my DPS. I'm still in tree form, and we're looking good. So that blind was definitely a very good defensive decision from my Rogue, and something to keep in mind with your team. So we get kicked there from the Demon Hunter. We're just kind of kidding the healer. I bashed the Demon Hunter here because my Mage is doing damage. We end up getting Trinket Nether, which was just kind of a opportunistic thing, which can happen in a lot of ways in Dragonflight for sure. People can kind of die randomly depending on what's going on and what classes you're playing with. So kind of just keeping the hots up on my Rogue, keeping hots up on my Mage, trying to keep my distance here. You can see my positioning. I'm playing like as far away as I can from the enemy DPS, trying to avoid getting gripped in. The DK is already kind of running over to me, trying to grip me in, trying to make an opportunity to swap to me. They swap over to my Rogue with their damage. The DK uses A-bomb, grips me in, asphyxiates me. Again, just trying to apply pressure to me. My Rogue dips extremely low there. I'm not actually sure what hit them, what hit my Rogue there. I think it might have been this, I forget what the ability is called. This icon right here. It's the old Sinister Strike icon. But he took a very big hit there. Thankfully, he did have some really good hots, so I just hit him with a little Swift Mend, and he's pretty stabilized. And we just go ahead and trade out the Tranquility here. This is Apocalypse, Abomination, just another set of cooldowns from the Death Knight. So trading out the Tranquility to reduce the cooldown on our Iron Bark. We are playing that talent that allows Tranquility to reduce your other cooldowns. So reducing the cooldown on Iron Bark, on Bash, on our Tree Form, just getting as many abilities back as we can. The DH uses the hunt there. We used Wild Charge there to get away from the fight to kind of get to our Mage. This is definitely something, again, it's pretty basic, but something to keep in mind, especially when fighting double melee. My Mage is in a very good position for me to Wild Charge to him. It's also off global, so I can just do it and use another global at the same time. So as soon as my Tranquility is over, I Wild Charge to my Mage, escaping the fight. The DH uses Hunt to keep up with me, and I use Stampeding Roar there, trying to get away. Stampeding Roar also put me in bear form for that, so I was taking slightly less damage. We still had Soul the Forest up, so we just go ahead and throw Barkskin up and Overgrowth on ourselves. The DH used his big 1 minute AoE stun, so Barkskin is not the worst trade there. Also trading it for Apocalypse and Abomination and some of the DK cooldowns. Just trying to stabilize and keep us alive here, using our defensives in whatever optimal order that we can at the time. So again, just kind of stabilizing here. We're not really doing much offensively, and this is kind of a key point for Dragonflight. As a healer, I've found, especially as a Druid, really as any healer, but as a druid in Dragonflight, the times where you are pushing in and trying to get aggressive are very rare. It's not a very offensive kind of crowd control, you know, kind of like play style right now. It's very much a defensive kind of playing the long game. And in that line right here, I am kind of in that line of thought, I mean to say, I'm kind of running away from the fight. I'm about to call for my mage to press mass invisibility on me, and I've gone over this in previous videos, but mass invisibility takes you out of combat, which allows you to get like a prowl rake stun off, but it also allows you to drink. So as I'm running away from the fight here, I call for my mage to give me mass invisibility, which he does. You can see my prowl icon light up down there. I am out of combat. I sit down for a drink. I'm 53% mana at the start of this drink. So let's see how much mana I end up getting here. The DK is walking over to me. I quickly mouse over the DK's runic power. He has 43. Maybe it costs 50 runic power for them to death and decay. I believe it's 50, but for some reason he does not death and decay me here. It may have been because he did not have enough runic power. I had dots on me, so I waited to go in stealth until I felt he was just in range of being able to get me out. Otherwise, if I prowled too early, the dots would have broken my stealth and he would have been able to stop my drink. So we end up getting literally 100% mana. So just from that one, seeing that one opportunity to get away from the fight, calling for my mage's mass invisibility, we went from 53% mana to 100% mana. And you can see the enemy healer is at about 53% mana. So that is going to very much work in our favor moving into the later parts of this game. This game is probably going to go into dampening. Demon Hunters, Death Knights, Evokers, they're not easy classes to kill, and neither are Assassination Rogues, Arcane Mages, or Resto Druids. So this game is almost guaranteed to go into dampening unless somebody makes a drastic mistake. And one thing I just want to go over really quickly, after we did get this very important drink, they're going to try and punish us immediately for going for that drink. Me not having, I have 0 healing over time effects out on my entire team. So they send the stun out. They're trying to get some damage rolling. I just go ahead and use the Iron Bark on my rogue to stay ahead. I put Life Loom on myself. I get grip stunned. And here is going to be a time where we almost lose the game. So I don't have Bark Skin, which I traded earlier. Probably now looking back was a bad trade of Bark Skin. Probably did not need to use it there. I do not have access to it here, which is very important. I trinket out of that stun because I know I don't have any hots on myself. The entire enemy team is stacked up on top of me, and I know I'm going to be in big trouble. I'm just going to rewind there because it was getting kind of fuzzy. So we send the Iron Bark out on a rogue. Thankfully, we get a Life Loom up on ourselves, which gets us 1 global ahead. But we know that we are behind. We don't have Tree Form. We don't have Shadow Meld. We don't have Bark Skin. We don't have Tranquility. Trinket is kind of the only cooldown that we have in this situation. So we trinket out of this Asphyxiate a little bit late to get that rejuve up so that we can Swift Mend ourselves if we dip really low. We get Pet Stun half here at 58%. And at the end of the Pet Stun, we dip down to 9% health. Again, from just this burst damage that DHDK can do. So we dip down to 9% health. Thankfully, we land that Swift Mend, bringing us up to 35% health, and we get that Nature Swiftness, bringing us back up to 100%, recovering and being able to live until the next go. So again, just keeping hots up on myself here. My Rogue uses Evasion, trying to keep himself alive so I don't have to heal 2 targets. We bash the Demon Hunter off of ourselves, again, just trying to stabilize, and we do use this Frenzied Regeneration right here to keep us topped off and go ahead and throw ourselves into that tree form. Again, just trying to keep momentum in our favor. Now that we've recovered, let's do some damage. We're 85% mana. The enemy healer is 40% mana, and mana is probably going to be our win condition here. So just trying to keep our team on the offensive, able to do as much damage as possible. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit here. Let's see. Again, just trying to swap to me over and over and over again. But still, we have that mana lead, so that's kind of what we're relying on. The big meta comes out, and we don't have anything to stop it. But I believe we just are, doing our best to kite around the map, and we get that kidney shot out on the DH, the bash on the healer. Just trying to do a little bit offensive here, get kicked. But as soon as the go's over, just run away. Just try to stay alive. You have the mana lead, so there's no point in trying to get a little bit too offensive. Again, just throwing out that Iron Bark there onto my rogue, trying to keep myself and him alive as much as possible, splitting up my tools. This is a big concept to keep in mind as a druid. You have so many different kinds of healing tools. You have Overgrowth, which is a huge cooldown to recover somebody from any kind of sketchy situation. You have Adaptive Swarm, which is a 20% healing buff to all of your hots. You have Cenarian Ward, which is really powerful hot. You have Soul of the Forest, which you can use for a rejuve or a regrowth. You have Nature Swiftness. I mean, you have Tree Form, you have Tranquility. You have so many different healing tools to keep in mind, and you can split them up accordingly to kind of keep your team alive consistently. And it's just about trying to match them as best you can with different cooldowns. There's no one recipe. It's not like you always trade this for this and this for this. Just kind of trying to split them up onto whoever is taking damage at the time, and just kind of feeling your way through that is really important. So we're in bear form for the stun here. We already have Soul of the Forest up. They proc our Well-Honed Instincts, Frenzy Regeneration. We just use a Nest to top ourselves off there. We throw our Adaptive Swarm over to our Rogue since we're stabilized, and we're keeping Blooms up on both of our teammates just because we are completely fine. We just want to keep them topped off and get that shorter cooldown on our Tree of Life. So again, dipping back for a drink, Shadow Meld drink, just getting a little bit of mana here while we have full hots on our Rogue. The DK tries to throw the Abomination out, does not get me. Coming back, trying not to be too greedy before all of our hots fall off. That's another thing to keep in mind as a druid when you're going for drinks. You don't just want to go into the last second where your team is going to be dying and you're going to have to use a bunch of cooldowns to catch up after your drink. You should try to come back as your hots are falling off, unless your teammates are stable on their own. Otherwise, you're going to have to use at least 3 or 4 globals to stabilize them, and they could just end up dying, or having to use every cooldown that they have. So yeah, try not to be too greedy with those drinks, but also understanding when it is safe for you to keep sitting down and drinking if your team is stable on their own, which a lot of classes can be stable on their own. Kitty shot coming out on the DH there. They grip, they blind our DPS. They're just trying to get pressure here. I'm probably going to fast forward 1 or 2 times. Again, we're just trying our best to stay alive here. The DH comes over to me here, and again, the name of the game is just slowing the game down. So we go ahead and bash the Demon Hunter here, and we use our positioning to get a Cyclone on the Demon Hunter off of this bash without being stopped by the DK. Again, just slowing the game down, preventing them from doing anything. As soon as we get that Cyclone onto the DH, I'm crossing the map already, just getting distance, trying to drag out this game as long as I can, get as deep into dampening as possible, have a mana lead, and just win the game based off of War of Attrition, which is kind of a lot of these Dragonflight matchups, especially when you're playing a Restoration Druid. You have an advantage in dampening, so you're going to want to take those games as deep into dampening as possible, and just try to capitalize as much as you can on mana. My mage did immediately Dragon's Breath this Emerald Communion, which is important. I believe that they're taking this out of the game, so maybe not super important, but you can see the enemy Evoker casting Emerald Communion. My mage alters back and Dragon's Breath that, which prevents him from getting mana back and healing his team. But I do think that they're taking that out in a future patch. The Hunt comes out onto me there, but they were not connecting on me at the time, so I was not in danger of dying. We just use the Nature Swiftness on ourselves. Kind of overlapped with our regeneration there. Not ideal. We get chrono looped there. Okay, that's an important moment. So I did not see this. He chrono loops me here at like 30-something% health right before I NS myself, and it's this buff right here. You can see it on the left side or the right side of my screen. This chrono loop buff right here is going to take me back to the HP that I was at. This is an ability from the enemy Evoker. It's a PvP talent, and I did not see it. So it takes me back low here, and thankfully I already had a Swift Bend, so I just quickly Swift Bend myself to safety, use the tree form, and we're recovered. But do try to keep an eye out for that. I think they are making it a larger icon in the future, but until they do, try to keep an eye out for those chrono loops. They can be very, very, very sneaky, especially if they're used in a good way. So we're inching closer to that finish line. We may end up going for one more little sip here, one more little drink. Just whenever we're looking for whatever drinks we can. Yeah, I believe we do here. We get as far away from the fight as we can and get a nice little Shadow Meld drink. Okay, so I'm just gonna rewind a little bit here. We were trying to go for a drink there. We were unable to. We're just trying to stabilize our team as much as we can. Make sure that we're not gonna lose the game. We have a little bit of mana. I think I just bash cloned to the DH on the side there. Kind of. So now it's about understanding where everybody is standing. So you can see the Demon Hunter and the DK and the Evoker are all on this side of the map, as well as my mage. My mage has Alter Time. He has Ice Block. My Rogue has Evasion. He has Cloak coming up in 10 seconds. My team is probably going to be okay, and I have some hots out. So I leap to my Rogue. I use Stampeding Roar to cross the map, and within a matter of seconds, I am completely on the other side of the map from everybody else in the game. The DH gets gouged into a kidney. He cannot stop me. And the DK just grips my Rogue and trying to punish my Rogue. So I think I stand up here quickly. I get about 40% mana, 39% mana. And the enemy healer is at like maybe 15%. So just getting another little edge on mana right there. Not being too greedy, not like risking my Rogue dying here. Or him having to use Cloak again and us not having enough cooldowns to deal with, their cooldowns in the future. But again, so we have our Life Bloom on ourselves, keeping our Rogue topped off. He trades out the Cloak of Shadows, which is completely fine. Me not having Iron Bark for 30 seconds is a totally fine trade. I'll have a cooldown for the next time that they have a lot of damage. And this is a key point here, that it's the big meta from the Demon Hunter. We just need to be safe. I go ahead and trinket out of this AoE stun. It is 35% dampening, as you can see on the debuffs on the right side of my screen. So any kind of momentum that the enemy team gets is going to be more and more punishing the deeper we get into dampening. But as you can see, the enemy healer is completely tapped on mana. We get a sheep on the DH, it gets dispelled. We get a resheep on the DH. I clone the DH off the dispel. We push in here. We land a bash clone on the enemy healer, and he is just completely dead. So yeah, we won this battle of attrition over time, getting those drinks off, trading cooldowns effectively, paying attention to when the enemy team wants to attack you as the druid, and yeah, just being reliable, kind of finding those like very rare opportunities to push in and get CC, but for the most part, just doing a good healing rotation and kind of taking care of your team and playing the long game. So yeah, hope you learned something from this video, and hope to catch you in the next one. See you later, guys. Peace. Hey guys, so today we're going to be going over a game of Rogue Mage Druid, and here I'm playing with an Arcane Mage and an Assassination Rogue versus Rogue Warlock Druid. So basically a mirror, but with a Warlock on one side and a Mage on the other side. And some of the main things we're going to be paying attention to here are positioning, kind of just the understanding of how Assassination Rogues work, as well as concepts like momentum and capitalizing on certain moments. So let's jump into the game and see what happens here. Right now, both the rogues are just in stealth, and both druids as well. So the only two people out are the Arcane Mage and the Destruction Warlock. My Arcane Mage is just basically spell stealing the Warlock, trying to get him low a little bit, and just kind of just waiting for the rogue to open. So the rogue opens here on our mage. And in this situation, I have no hots on him right now. So if he takes a lot of damage, he is going to be in trouble. And that's exactly what happens. So my first global on my mage is Adaptive Swarm. Adaptive Swarm has a travel time, so sometimes it can be good to be your first global to get up on somebody while they're still somewhat high HP, because it will buff the healing that you put on them afterwards, and it is better to get it up earlier rather than later, since it does have that travel time. So we throw the Adaptive Swarm up, and then we innervate Overgrowth our mage into a quick Swift Mend, getting him to 62% HP, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 healing over time effects on him. So with 11% mastery, that's 77% increased healing. So we're quickly stabilizing our mage there with just Adaptive Swarm, Overgrowth, Swift Mend. The enemy druid opens on me with Rake Stun here, but my Arcane Mage uses the ability Mass Invisibility, as you can see right here. This makes me go invisible as the enemy druid is casting Cyclone on me, which stops the Cyclone cast. So my mage looking out for me there. Another thing about Mass Invisibility when you're playing with an Arcane Mage as a Restoration Druid is that it gives you the ability, it takes you out of combat, so it gives you the ability to go into Prowl. So not only did my mage prevent me from getting crowd controlled by that Cyclone, he also enabled me to crowd control the enemy druid. So right here, I use that Prowl that I get from the Mass Invisibility to stun the enemy druid into a Cyclone. As you can see, the Warlock's pet is over here on Chun, my rogue, right over here, and it is out of line of sight, so he cannot counterspell me. So we end up landing this Cyclone here, getting some CC, and we're looking pretty good. So now the kitty comes out onto our rogue. We need to quickly swap over those hots onto him, give him Life Bloom, a Rejuve, a Cenarian Ward, and then a Swift Mend to extend that Cenarian Ward. And as soon as the enemy rogue sees that Cenarian Ward, he comes over onto me, spreading his dots onto me. So my globals for myself are Life Bloom, Rejuve. We might throw the Adaptive Swarm on ourselves. No, he goes over to our mage, so we get our bloom over onto our mage. Chun-Li is stabilized now. My rogue is stabilized, so I have my life blooms on myself and my mage in order to get us topped off. And this is something that you're going to be needing to pay attention to a lot as a druid. How you manage your life blooms is extremely important in this meta. Basically, so much of your healing rotation goes into life bloom, and keeping life bloom up on the right targets at the right times is going to be the make or break in whether or not you are able to heal your team. So we go ahead and trade out the tree form here, and this is where I was talking about kind of how Assassination Rogues work. Assassination Rogues, what they're going to try to do is build pressure on one target and then use that pressure to spread pressure to other targets in a lot of situations. Sometimes Assassination Rogues will just train one target, but a lot of the time they will try to swap around. So he opened up on my mage, then he went my rogue, then he shadow stepped over to me, dotted me up, then went my mage some more. So he's kind of spreading pressure around, and me and my mage being this close together is not always beneficial for this reason. So we're both kind of dipping low, and I trade out the tree form here because everybody's kind of dropping low. I have NS and I have Ironbark, but I don't really want to trade those very important cooldowns that are good for dealing with burst damage for this kind of situation. So trading tree form here is just to kind of top us off. And that does, okay, so something that happened there, the enemy rogue did blind me and it broke into the infernal. So that's just a quick mistake to mention. Did give us an advantage in the situation, and sometimes you will get lucky. But to get back to what I was saying, with momentum, tree form, the reason I play tree form as a restoration druid in Dragonflight is for the purpose of momentum. When the momentum starts to shift in the enemy team's favor, tree form is a very effective cooldown that it lasts 30 seconds. It gives you 15% more healing. It's very effective in shifting the momentum of your team as long as you're not in crowd control. And that is something that is invaluable in the kind of meta that we're in Dragonflight. A lot of it comes down to how much damage your team is doing, how much damage the enemy team is doing, and who has the momentum going in their favor. So tree form was very useful here to kind of snuff out the momentum that they had been building. So I'm using my clear casting procs on my regrowths here, getting my team topped off, and my rogue uses evasion there on the kidney shot, successfully dodging it, and then the enemy rogue vanished cheap shots him, so they are committing to him. I think the warlock must have had some good damage for him, but we are able to keep him topped off there with just a couple rejuves, a life bloom, a swiftman, and a regrowth. And so yeah, as of right now, my rogue has trinket, but he has no cooldowns. The enemy team is going to be looking to use Deathmark on him. If you look down at my Omni bar where you can see Cloak of Shadows, Iron Bark, Blind, Vanish, Evasion, you do not see Deathmark there. So the enemy rogue does have access to Deathmark, but we also have access to Iron Bark. So let's see what happens here. We are expecting them to go onto our rogue. So here we get a kidney shot on the rogue. Let me just rewind here for a second. This is kind of a classic Rogue Mage Druid strategy here. So we have a kidney shot available for the rogue. My mage has polymorphed yards for the warlock, and I have a bash for the enemy druid. The enemy warlock does not have counterspell, so he will not be able to stop my mage from sheeping him. So right here, I actually call for my mage to sheep the warlock. He sheeps the warlock, and as soon as he sheeps the warlock, that is my time to push in on the enemy druid, because he will not be able to start casting fear on me. I will have time to get around the pillar. So even just that one sheep here, I leap at the druid, the warlock is casting fear on me already right away. This is Thugonomics, very, very good player. He's already casting fear on me, but because of that first polymorph, the warlock even used reflect so that he could not get repolymorphed. If you can take a look at my S arena right over here, you can see he has reflect up. So even just that one polymorph getting dispelled gave me just enough time to land the bash on the enemy druid, get out of line of sight of the fear. As you can see with the warlock on my left side there, I'm out of line of sight of that fear, and I do land the cyclone here. The warlock tries to stop it with a shadow fury, does not land it in time, but we do get the cyclone. Kind of netting the cooldown that we got from that was getting the rogue's trinket, getting the druid CC and getting the rogue's trinket. So I am shadow furied, and my rogue is kidney shot into a smoke bomb. He has some hots, but I don't have a life bloom on myself and him for photosynthesis to make my hot stick faster. I have my life bloom on my mage, so that is really not enough healing to keep him up, especially if they are able to invest any more damage. So he go ahead and trades out his trinket. He vanishes on the coil. I land a swiftman on him as he gets out of the smoke bomb, and we're then stable. So we did trade our trinket advantage. So now my rogue has absolutely no cooldowns, guys. My rogue is completely dead in the water. The enemy team still has Deathmark. So I have my trinket, I have tranquility, I have Iron Bark. I am going to need to react to this next Deathmark go. Okay, so let's see what happens here. I believe this is where they send the Deathmark go right here. So we get a kidney shot onto the enemy rogue, kind of just delaying this go, trying to buy ourselves as much time as we can. We get the blooms out, we get the adaptive swarm, the Cenarian ward, we get the swift mend, and we put one life bloom on ourself there. You saw me quickly target myself and put my life bloom on myself. When you have life bloom on yourself, your talent called photosynthesis in your restoration tree is going to make all of your other hots tick 20% faster. So I have a ridiculous amount of healing on my rogue right now. So the rogue sends the kidney, and as you can see on my Omnibar now, the Deathmark comes up. So we immediately trade out that Iron Bark. He's at 95% health with an absurd amount of healing, all ticking 20% faster. The druid comes in to CC me and quickly realizes that the go is not happening, so retreats. But again, with this mass invisibility coming out from my mage, I get a free re-stealth. I push in, I stun the druid. We're getting pressure on the enemy rogue. His Battlemaster falls in 6 seconds. My my mage lands a Ring of Frost on the enemy warlock right here. I land the clone on the druid. No, I actually do not. I get step kicked from the rogue here, but just that stun is enough as we start to push in here with this momentum. Again, we are just kind of out pressuring them. We dealt with their death mark with an Iron Bark, and we have cooldowns of our own and damage of our own. The Rogue's Battlemaster falls right there, and even though we do not have that much crowd control, we still managed to land the kill on the enemy Rogue. So yeah, I think this was a story of kind of managing your cooldowns, predicting what the enemy team wants to do, understanding when you can push in and how to push in, and yeah, just general Restoration Druid gameplay stuff. This was a faster game. A lot of other games are going to come down to damp, and I will have other videos that go into those kinds of long sorts of games. But yeah, I hope you learned something from this video, and hope to catch you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye. Hey guys, how's it going? Flop here, and today we're going to be going over a game of Windwalker Arcane Mage Restoration Druid versus Assassination Rogue DK Restoration Druid. Assassination Rogue Unholy DK has been a very popular comp in Europe, less popular in North America, but definitely very, very good, and usually leads to faster games than slower ones. So let's jump in here and see what happens. We're getting hots up on our monk here. We don't want to have to use Overgrowth if we don't have to. We know that either my monk or myself is going to be the primary kill target. A mage is kind of slippery, hard to keep up with, has the Nova for the DK pets, has greater invisibility for damage reduction, can blink stuns, has alter time, but monk and druid are both pretty susceptible to this comp. So we get some hots up. The druid comes out with a bash, tries to cast clone, and again, this clutch mass invisibility that I've been talking about in other videos, playing with an arcane mage as a druid is very beneficial in a lot of ways, but here it prevents the enemy druid from landing the cyclone on me. So we come out of that bash with a quick swiftman into a Nature's Swiftness. And my monk's first global, as he comes out of that kidney, is a double leg sweep onto the rogue and the Death Knight. My monk is going to pop Serenity, my mage is going to use Touch of the Magi, we're going to use as much damage as we can on this double leg sweep, and this is something to keep in mind whenever you're playing a Windwalker comp into double melee comps. A lot of the times the melee are going to be stacked up. They just kind of have to be in most situations, and sometimes even the healer will be on top of them if you have a lot of pressure. So we immediately land this double leg sweep, use our offensive cooldowns, and we're going to see how quickly we're able to chunk that rogue down, getting him almost to 0% HP. But instead we get his trinket, we get Vanish, and we get Iron Bark from the druid. So there are very, very little tools at the enemy team's disposal right now to survive. So we have leg sweep in 35 seconds, and we're probably going to be able to kill the rogue on that next leg sweep. So we go ahead and throw the mass entanglement out onto the DK and the rogue, and I've been playing mass entanglement with the honor talent Deep Roots, as well as focus growth and Keeper of the Grove, to kind of control DKs a lot of the time versus DK teams. I find it just helps with all their pets, and just especially if they're playing with another melee, can be very beneficial just for slowing the game down. Keeping our Bloom set under 2 DPS, keeping them both topped off, using tree form here just to keep momentum in our favor. We do have a very, very, very strong opportunity to win the game in about 20 seconds, so I don't want us to be falling behind, having to kind of do an offensive go on the back foot. I want us to be healthy, I want the momentum to be moving in our favor, and I want us to be able to get that good leg sweep go here in about 12 seconds. So the DK has no kick. I go ahead and clone the DK up, and he still has no kick, so I swap the clone over to the druid. And so right here is a very key moment. As I'm doing this, the enemy rogue smoke bombs and kidneys my monk, and also uses death mark. So this is kind of a big moment. This is they're trying to win the game here. So I have two options here. I can either run into the smoke bomb, try to get an Iron Bark off, and try to save my monk that way, or I can just simply stay out of the smoke bomb, use Tranquility, and try to recover my monk once he gets out of the stun and out of the smoke bomb. So the reason why you don't want to push into the smoke bomb here is because the rogue still has access to blind. So you could push into the smoke bomb. You haven't used a global in a while. You're going to get blinded. And then if you haven't used a global in 6 seconds, if you hesitate on your trinket even for just like a couple seconds, then you could get sapped on your trinket and end up losing the game if your monk cannot get away. So instead of running into the bomb here, I go ahead and use Tranquility, which as you can see was the right choice because I immune both Asphyxiate and Blind. So you can see Asphyxiate on my Omnibar right here that just lit up, and Blind right here that just lit up as well. So this Tranquility not only helps my monk recover, brings back my Swiftmend and my Nature's Swiftness CDs so that I can keep him topped off if I need to use them, but it also immuned both of those key crowd control abilities. So landing that Tranquility, and my monk ports away, but he is playing the talent that allows him to port back. So he ports away, he realizes he's stable, he ports back, He lands the double leg sweep that I was talking about before. We pop our cooldowns, and we immediately punish them right after they were doing their go. And I don't think that they were ready. The Druid still had access to Trinket. He uses his Swiftmend there, as you can see on his nameplate. That's a Swiftmend icon. His next global is going to be NS, but it was just simply not enough and not enough time. Just kind of immediately turning the tide on that situation. After that, Tranquility, meeting that CC, my monk porting away, porting back, getting the leg sweep, and just ending the game. So yeah, hope that you guys learned something from this video here. Just kind of understanding trading cooldowns, maybe some talent choice stuff, and yeah, just general restoration druid arena stuff. So I hope you guys learned something, and hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.